Hello viewers, my name is Damilare. In this lesson, we'll be looking at the topic transport system. Transport system. What is the meaning of transport system? This is the movement of certain materials such as food, oxygen, carbon dioxide, urea, excess salt, water, amino acid, vitamins, sugars, fatty acid and glycerol, mineral salts, hormones, antibodies from various parts of the body where they are produced to other parts of the body where they are used, stored, or removed from the body through cytoplasm in protozoa, sap or latex in plants, blood and lymph in humans or animals. So what this definition is telling us is that certain things must be moved, just like transportation, vehicle transportation. It means when one is driving a car, there is something that must be inside the car. So the passenger in the car, the loads that they are packing, it could be good or bad. Just like the bad one is waste, maybe when they are packing debts using a particular vehicle to convey to the destination, or carrying corpse just like ambulance. So meaning the way different vehicle, bus, lorry, car, different vehicles carry different things, good or bad, humans, living, non-living, wastes. The same way in our body we have different vehicles. So the vehicles we have in our body, that's the blood for humans, sap for plants, cytoplasm for protozoa like amoeba. So these are their own vehicles. And what are they now carrying? They are materials, just like human that is being carried, just like loads that one is transporting. The same way the load that this vehicle of blood is transporting is food, oxygen and so on. Just like I said, both good and bad. So food, oxygen, they are good, but when it comes to carbon dioxide, the waste, urea, they are also carrying that. So that's what we call transport system. So meaning the blood and the likes, they are the transport media. That means how what will be used to transport, the transport media, they are the blood and co. Then the transport materials, they are the food and co. So this, it means we need the media and we need the materials, and telling us their destination, where they are going. And if you look at, for example, there are certain names that we mention like hormones. Hormones are chemical substances that are needed to bring about a change, effect a change in the body. Maybe there is too much of sugar, insulin can be released by pancreas. So if that insulin now is hormone. So how will that hormone, the insulin, get to where it will maintain sugar level? It means blood must have to carry this hormone. So if you look at other things also, like the amino acid, sugar, fatty acid, all these ones are food products. After we have eaten, the product of the food we ate must be transported to every cell in our body, and it's also through the blood. So here we can see what transport system means. Now, do we need transportation in our body? Yes, because we need metabolism. Food must be broken down. It must be the undigested one must be removed, and that's what we call excretion. Hormone must be transported because our system must be balanced. There are certain times that it's a stage of life that hormone will propel some things. For example, when it comes to sperm production, it's hormone that will make it happen, called testosterone. So meaning we need transportation. So in lower organism there is transportation, like amoeba is a lower organism. But take note of this lower organism, they have a larger surface area in relation to volume, that's SAV, large SAV, than larger organism. So and that gives them the opportunity to be able to diffuse their product instead of transporting from one place to another. They just diffuse because they have larger surface area to volume ratio. Now, what are the mechanism of transportation in some organism? For unicellular organism like amoeba, how do they transport their food and the likes? It's through continuous streaming. So just like flow, water that is moving their body, continuous streaming by the movement of cytoplasm, that means the cell organ. Then we also have multicellular organism. We can start with hydra. What's the mechanism of transportation in hydra? There's what we call gut movement. Gut movement, that's the way food can pass in hydra, just like our esophagus, mouth and the likes. So gut movement. There's also circulation with flagella. Hydra will use its flagella to drag food. Sorry, though it should be tentacle, so they majorly use tentacle instead of flagella. The flatworms, how do they transport? They also use diffusion and movement of their body wall. So insects and mollusks. Mollusks means snails, all those slug. So insects and mollusks, they will use open circulatory system. That means the heart will pump blood into blood vessel. That means the passage of blood. It will pump it into the passage, and later this will be opened into a space in our body cavity. They call it hemocoel, meaning the blood is transported through that vessels and then sent to hemocoel instead of sent to different parts of the body cells. So that's why we call it open. Just like when you press pure water that is in a nylon. Once you press the nylon and the water just splash out, it means it's an open circulatory system. So blood will now flow in one direction for open, meaning that it's just going one direction, it's not coming back. Now, transport in man by blood and lymph. So we call it active transport. Why? Because it's against the gradient, osmotic gradient. So any transport that is against the gradient, that means against the gradient means like when someone is forcing a passage to enter into a particular passage. So that's active transport or osmosis. Now another thing we want to look at is composition and structure of blood. Now that we have known that blood is the major medium of transportation, so what does it look like? We have the solid part of the blood, which is called the blood cell. We also have the liquid part of the blood, which we call plasma. So looking at the blood cells, there are different types. We have the red blood cell, we have the white blood cell, and we have the platelet. The red blood cell, they also call it erythrocyte, from the word red, erythrocyte, red blood cell, erythrocyte, meaning that's other name. Then white is leukocyte. Then platelets, they call it thrombocyte, thrombocyte. So you can just use the idea of saying throwing someone's plate, thrombocyte. Now another thing about red blood cell is that they have small size, while white blood cells, they have large size. Then the platelets, they are the smallest in size. Red blood cell, they are biconcave in shape, just like the donuts. So the shape, they are biconcave, that means bend inward on both sides. But white blood cells, they are amoeboid, that means shapeless. Then looking at platelet, this one they are spherical, just like football shape. Then the red blood cell has no nucleus, that means anucleated. But the leukocyte has nucleus, that's nucleated. Then the platelet also has nucleus, nucleated. So looking at the numbers of red blood cells, we have close to 5.5 millions of red blood cells, meaning that there are many. Then we also have 5,000 to 10,000 milliliter of white blood cell. Then 250,000 to 400,000 of platelets. So talking about their abundance, so meaning red blood cell is the most abundant. So followed by the platelets and then the white blood cell. Now that leads us to the also there's another thing about red blood cell, their lifespan, 120 days. After 120 days, the red blood cell will die and new one will be formed in the bone marrow. But white blood cell, they have a lower lifespan, so maybe just few days or months. So that is for the white blood cell. Then platelets, so the lifespan is also within 8 to 9 days. though different textbook with different idea. Most textbook did not specify, but based on findings, so some said like 8 to 9 days. Now another thing about red blood cell is that inside the bone marrow there is a production of red blood cell in the bone marrow. Also, for white blood cell is also produced in the bone marrow as well as lymph nodes or spleen. So where there is phagocytosis. Then for the platelet is produced in the red bone marrow. What's now the function of red blood cell? Red blood cell, it is red. Why? Because of the iron compound. So there is iron compound we call hemoglobin that makes it red. So and that hemoglobin is working to carry oxygen so that one will be alive. But once the red blood cell is deficient, if there is not enough red blood cell, there will be anemia. So there will be anemia. Anemia is just shortage of blood. Then white blood cell is always acting as phagocytes, like phagocytosis, always eating bacteria, consuming anything that is not useful or good in the body. They will destroy them. So they destroy bacteria. So that's phagocyte. Inside the lymphatic system, that's where they do this, in the lymphatic system. So there's what we call lymphocytes that is produce antibodies. So there is this lymphocyte also that can produce antibodies. It's also found in the white blood cell. Then the function. So like I said, white blood cell, anything that has to do with fighting against disease, bacteria and life. But once it is deficient, there will be leukemia, meaning one will be able to contact disease easily. Therefore, platelet, its own function is for blood clotting. In case if there is any injury, any kind of injury, so instead of the blood to just keep wasting, so it will clot the blood, stop the blood. That's platelet. And once it's deficient, there will be hemophilia. That means there will be excessive bleeding. So looking at the structure of each, you can see the red blood cell here, just like the donut I mentioned earlier. Then for the white blood cell, you can see it here, it's shapeless, it doesn't have shape. And then there is a nucleus at the center. So that is for white blood cell. Then platelet is as small as this size. So meaning that it is small in size and then it still has the nucleus. So meaning that it is also nucleated. Now the second blood. Remember we said blood is divided into blood cell and plasma. So looking at plasma, you can pick the L and P. That's the liquid portion of the blood, is plasma. So and the color of this plasma is pale yellow liquid. Compared to lymph, lymph is colorless instead of pale yellow. So lymph is colorless liquid and it contains lymphocytes also. So lymphocytes without red cells, moving fluid to the main vein, without red cells, moving fluid to the main vein through openings in the subclavian or left jugular. So meaning for this lymph, which is also part of the transport system, so we said it focuses on anything that has to do with lymphocytes. That means what we be killing bacteria. So this lymph so can be killing bacteria, can be carrying any dead bacteria from one place to another. So back to plasma, the liquid part of the blood. The color is yellow, pale yellow, and it contains about 90% of water and 10% food products and waste. So it participates in blood clotting and oxygen transport. So still looking at lymph, we said it's colorless liquid, it contains lymphocytes without red cells. Now moving fluid to the main vein through openings in the subclavian level. So to their in the subclavian, that's the left jugular. So the left jugular, so vein below the neck. So its movement is enhanced by muscle through lymph. That's the lymph vessels, e.g. lacteal. Lymph moves to moves dead bacteria to lymph nodes, e.g. neck, groin, and the armpits. So they are the places where the boil easily affects. So the neck, the groin, and we also have the armpits. So the armpits. So and it will later return pure. So this system eats blindly and ends blindly, and is called lymphatic system. So carrying anything waste. So that's the lymphatic system. So thanks for listening.